Well, welcome back to Swordbox and my car studios here. Today we're on the third day of going through the Epistle of James, and our verse is James 1:5. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. That phrase, if any of you lacks wisdom, well, what exactly is wisdom that he's talking about here? Often we think of wisdom only in terms of someone who is smart and who is filled with knowledge. The dictionary defines wisdom as the trait of utilizing knowledge and experience with common sense and insight, the quality of being prudent and sensible, and accumulated knowledge or enlightenment. But the kind of wisdom James is referring to here isn't about our life experiences or simply accumulated knowledge, but a wisdom that comes from God. In short, the best definition I've ever heard is knowing and doing the will of God. Now, we will see as we move through the book of James more on this subject of wisdom that comes from above. But today I want us to focus on the fact that no matter how smart we may be, no matter how many of life experiences we have under our belt, we all need to recognize that we have a need and often a big lack of God's wisdom in our life. It's a very good promise to all of us that all we have to do, as James says, is ask of God. And let him ask in the Greek is literally let him keep on asking. In other words, it's not just a one-time request, but something we should ask for often and consistently for God's perspective, for God's will, and the ability to carry it out in each and every situation in our lives. You know, there's so many things that come up each day. Worldly knowledge isn't always going to help. We need to know what God's will is. What does He want us to do? And so we ask God for His wisdom to make the right decisions. And there will be times when God's wisdom may be completely contrary to what earthly wisdom might suggest to us. God knows and sees everything, whereas our own experiences and our own knowledge are limited. Simply recognizing that we need God's wisdom and then asking for it isn't enough. James tells us that we must ask in faith. That means that we ask with full assurance that we're going to receive the wisdom that we need from God. With no doubting is what he says. It doesn't mean that we're to be arrogant or prideful in our prayers, but rather remember that our God is faithful to do what he says he will do. Our confidence should be 100% in this request because, as James just said, God gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. It's a clear promise from God that if we ask for wisdom in faith, God will, not maybe, not sometimes, but will give us the wisdom we need. Now that's an awesome promise. When was the last time that you asked God for wisdom? Do you simply trust in your own intelligence or your own smarts to make life's decisions? What a shame to have access to God's infinite wisdom and instead rely on our own finite wisdom as we go through life. If we doubt, then we're not trusting God. And as James says, we're like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. And we can expect to receive nothing from God because we're double-minded and unstable, as he says, in all of our ways. 1 foot in the world and 1 foot in the Lord doesn't work. God expects us to be fully committed, fully trusting him alone. Double-minded is a description of someone who's lost, still fighting with what to do, to trust God or to trust in themselves. So make it a daily part of your prayer life, asking God and then thanking him for his wisdom in advance. Then make sure you're reading and meditating on his word because that's where God's going to speak to you more than any other way, through his written word. God bless you. Thanks for tuning in to Swordbox. We'll see you back here tomorrow.